See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, and do no evil. This was something that was at the core of the White Lotus Season 3, and we saw the evil in each of those four things coming to fruition in the final episode. Many of the characters in this season embraced the darkness that they had inside of themselves, and unlike the previous seasons, they were rewarded for doing so. Within this video, I want to look at each of the main characters in the season and analyse how the core theme of evil was left to reign victorious as their vacation came to an end. Here is why evil won in the White Lotus Season 3. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Rick and Chelsea. Rick and Chelsea is probably the clearest example of the core theme being explored in the sense that this was yin and yang and good versus evil. Chelsea had good intentions with Rick, she loved him deeply and she saw herself spending the rest of her life with him. But where she went wrong was she viewed Rick almost like a project, as she previously said that she liked people that she could fix. And the thing with that is, Rick was broken beyond repair and was unable to be saved by the love that Chelsea was offering. So she ended up becoming collateral damage to Rick's actions. Chelsea was arguably one of the nicest and purest people in the show, maybe even more so than Piper, because at the end, Piper went back on her word and realised that she shared the same mindset as the family that she wanted to distance herself from. And with Chelsea being the kindest, with evil being at the heart of this show, it meant that she wasn't going to be walking out of it alive and that her death would be the most symbolic of them all. Rick had been burdened with the image of Jim Hollinger killing his father ever since his mother mentioned his name to him when he was younger, and the anger, resentment, and lack of love that he had in the past is what decided his future, and ultimately cost him everything that was good in his life. If he had held his anger inside of him, or if Amrita had spoken to him, then maybe what we saw happening might not have unfolded. Rick killing Jim Hollinger and giving into the darkness that was inside of him showed that he couldn't move on from the past. He had to confront it and bring it into the present day and ultimately allow it to dictate his future. Chelsea said a line in the episode where she basically told him to look at the love that he had in front of him, rather than the love that he didn't receive in the past, and he just simply couldn't do that. And with him picking his side symbolically by killing Jim Hollinger, and also physically by walking away from Chelsea when she was right in front of him and he could have walked away with her, that was where the decision was made. Chelsea being the innocent bystander and being killed in the crossfire was obviously extremely upsetting, but with her being the symbolic image of Rick's hope and future, with her being killed, it meant that Rick didn't have a future, hence why we saw him also die. Amor Fati was also mentioned in this episode, which is where people's fates are linked. Chelsea believed that both hers and Rick's were, and we saw that they were. Rick did something bad, Chelsea died. Then once Chelsea died, Rick also died too. Rick couldn't look to the future because his mind was forever stuck in the past. And with a lie being the very thing that haunted his past, because Jim Hollinger was actually his father. With Rick becoming the person that he hated throughout the entirety of his life, the person who killed his father, it ultimately added an extra layer of evil to the entirety of it. Gaitok. Outside of Chelsea, Gaitok was probably the next purest character in the show because he was a loyal follower of his religion, and with Buddhism having a core focus on not wanting to be violent, we saw him expressing that view a lot throughout the show, especially when Mook was pressing him to be more violent and to gain a killer instinct. The very thing that showed that evil won with Gaitok is that he went against his religious beliefs and his personal beliefs in order to prosper and develop within his career, and also his personal life, ultimately becoming an empty shell of himself, and his face here showed exactly the moment where he changed, where he did something that he didn't really want to do. He had a clear interest in Mook, and she was constantly telling him to have a killer instinct, despite him believing that he didn't, and mentioning how he didn't want to be like that. We even saw that the burden of him knowing that Valentin, Alexei and Vlad were the robbers from episode 2 was something that was weighing heavy on his mind because he didn't want to upset anybody. He was ultimately prepared to ruin his own life by leaving his job. What we saw at the end with Gaitok killing Rick after Kunshrit Allah shouted kill him was Gaitok transforming and detaching himself from the person that he once was. Gaitok became a killer and his life changed for the better. He actually ended up thriving after that and became Kunshrit Allah's bodyguard. Mook instantly became interested in him. And he got that success by disposing of everything that he believed in. Everything that once made him Gaitok. showing that he was rewarded for not being true to himself. We even saw that he lied about the robbers and he didn't reveal the truth about who was responsible for doing it, meaning that Valentine, Alexei and Vlad got away with it, showing again that evil prospered throughout this Thailand resort. Belinda and Greg. Belinda was another example of evil prospering and a character leaving the island in a worse off position than when they arrived, from a moral sense that is. Yes, financially she was significantly better off, but that money that she held in her pockets was red and covered in Tanya's blood. What made Belinda's ending worse was that she initially didn't want to take the $100,000 that Greg was offering her because of why she would be receiving the money. But once it got increased to $5 million, it basically showed that everybody had a price, and that was exactly Belinda's. Not only was the taking of the blood money and the participating in the dramatics of it something which showed a darkness within Belinda, but her also breaking Pornchai's heart and valuing the money that she obtained by keeping a murder quiet over that of an actual human connection that only a few days prior she valued extremely highly. It was something that leaned into it too. Herself and Pornchai discussed opening up a spa together, just like what Tanya did to Belinda in season 1 of the show, and just like what happened in season 1 with Belinda's dreams coming crashing down. She inflicted that exact pain onto poor Pornchai, showing how not only money changes people, but how she can become the very thing that crashed her hopes and dreams and not see it in herself when she looked in the mirror. Money changes people, and we saw Belinda changing in front of our very eyes. I know people will say it's $5 million, but it's the source of the money and how quickly she changed when an extra zero was added onto it, and the number at the front changed too. Seeing Greg also sitting there on his chair in his super mansion, knowing that he got away with it all, is something that really does bring that core theme to light as well. Ordinarily, you'd see a character like Greg being brought down, but the White Lotus went right against the grain and showed that he got his happily ever after. Timothy Ratliff. Timothy's evil is one that, even though it amounted to nothing in the end, the fact that he got to walk away scot-free from what he planned on doing is evil enough. Timothy obviously poisoned the drinks that he gave his family before changing his mind, and would have also been responsible for Lochlan's death if he had have ended up dying after drinking the protein shake. But because everybody was okay at the end, everybody was none the wiser. However, I think this is the most evil act of them all, and also the ending that leans into the sinister nature the most. His whole family were going home having no idea that he was on the cusp of wiping them all out. In fact, they were seconds away from death, all because he wanted them to die. That's a secret that he's going to have with him every time he looks at his family at home. But what I think is also extremely haunting about this is that it shows that he has the capability of murdering his family again. He didn't do it this time, but what's to say that if he gets himself in a situation again where things are going wrong, that he won't turn to violence and eradicate his family instead of just being upfront, honest and open with them. There's something about none of his family knowing what he did that just makes me feel so uncomfortable. And yes, whilst Timothy saw the water droplets which represented life and made him realize that he wanted to live, it was definitely the most evil ending of a character. He was basically going to kill everybody that he loved instead of revealing the truth. Piper and Victoria Ratliff. Piper's ending, whilst it isn't necessarily evil, it was more so something that just shone a light on how even those that want to distance themselves from the negativity that's around them and the association with people that they don't feel like they're like, deep down within their core, they're a subject to their surroundings and they can be what they don't actually want to be. We saw this with her originally wanting to stay in the monastery, but realizing that creature comforts was what she actually valued in life. The food wasn't good enough there, the bed wasn't comfy enough, and the room that she was in was a bit grotty. So the religion that she apparently believed in so highly and wanting to be a Buddhist was something that actually didn't matter to her because she'd become so accustomed to the life that she lived back home. Yeah, she was in tears over it all because she didn't think that she was that type of person, but that doesn't make it any better because she didn't end up going through with it. She was just as shallow and hollow as the rest of her family, and after judging them for the entirety of the trip, when she looked in the mirror, she was exactly that. I'd even throw Victoria into this mix too. She spent the entirety of this season trying to get her daughter to not stay in Thailand, and as she sat there watching Piper's eyes filling with tears, it only made her happier. My conclusion: Whilst there were small glimmers of hope in this season of the show, with the likes of Saxon looking to develop as a person based on what he experienced and learned from Chelsea, and Laurie realising that time with people is the core thing that she valued in life and was happy with the way that everything else was. The overarching tone and mood of season 3 was that if you leaned into your dark side, you either got away with it, won, or eradicated all of the goodness and hope that was around you. Evil prospered in this season of the show, and there were no repercussions left for those alive who committed evil acts. They actually thrived following it. So, there you have it, why evil won in the White Lotus Season 3. If you want to see every episode of the White Lotus Season 3 being broken down, then click on the card in the top corner, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Do you think it was evil that won in this season of the White Lotus? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.